See me?
Huh?
You see me?
Up there on the top?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Hello, everyone. I am delighted to welcome you to Tall Tales from the classroom here. I've got the fire going. Almost there. Here in historic downtown McCarthy, in the heart of Alaska's Wrangell Mountains, tucked away in North America's largest national park, on land that the Ahtna Athabascan people hunted and preserved for thousands of years. This is a dynamic and inspiring landscape, and it's a place that holds many stories. I'm John Erdman, the Executive Director of the Wrangell Mountain Center, and honestly, I just feel thankful to be able to hold this year's Tall Tales storytelling event during such a difficult time. So many of us and so many of our friends are struggling. Many of our friends and family have been impacted by the wildfires in California and Oregon. Many of our friends have been impacted by racial violence and hatred. And of course, we are all in the midst of a global pandemic. So it's a good time for stories, because it's a good time for the joy and sense of connectedness that a good story can evoke, especially when we share it with each other. One of the things I'm most excited about as the new executive director is storytelling, of course. I myself am a writer, and when it comes to Alaska, and especially when it comes to McCarthy, I can't get enough good stories. Typically, Tall Tales is held at the Golden Saloon, but this year we are sending it out to the world, and I'd like to thank our board for that, along with our core team who worked very hard to make this happen. Maria Schell, Sally Gibbert, Brita Mayos, Karina Baker, Molly Milius, and Nancy Cook, and so many others contributed time and expertise. We received financial support for this event from our sponsors, Agnew Beck Consulting, the Hahn Company, and Uncle Herbs. And many people and businesses made generous donations to our online auction. And then there's you. You made it happen by buying tickets and showing up. So thank you for your support for the Wrangell Mountain Center. At the Wrangell Mountain Center, we seek to cultivate and appreciate the connection between people and wildlands. We do this right here in this enchanted place that we love. We do this by supporting art and artists. We hold artistic forums and events within our McCarthy community, and we support artists through our Meg Hunt residency program. We also support scientific exploration and education. Every summer we host students for accredited field studies programs and host researchers, experts and scholars from around the world in glacier research. We hold camps and events for kids, and we connect people in wildlands by opening our campus and facilities for community programs and events and for community discussions. And that's a sample of what we do here at the Wrangell Mountain Center. So as you can see, storytelling is right up our alley. And storytelling is one way we thrive here in Alaska. It's how we celebrate and explore our connection with each other and with the wilderness that surrounds us. We can tap into something ancient, telling stories around a fire. But wherever we are, our stories matter, and we know that. Now more than ever, our stories hold us together and speak to something greater than the difficulties of our circumstances, because our struggles are a part of our shared story and our life together. So thank you for sharing this space with us tonight. And now, without further ado, it's time to hear from our storytellers. So now let's turn it over to Nancy Cook. And let's try to find where Nancy is, shall we?
You guys are going to wish that you had the ability to mute Nancy Cook here in a little bit, but I am unmuted. And if you know McCarthy, as I know many of you do, I've got my virtual Golden Saloon in the backdrop. I've got my virtual assistant over here. Come in my screen for a second. The wonderful Laura Evans. We are broadcasting tonight from our green room in Astoria, Oregon. But this is the first time in 29 years that I haven't spent the summer in McCarthy. And to do Tall Tales with all of you guys, despite the COVID, despite the fires, despite hurricanes and Ruth Bader Ginsburg passing, despite all the loss that we're knowing as a world, to come back together and hear one another is a beautiful thing. If you've ever been to the Wrangles, was on you. You didn't hear any of that? You just
No, I just did.
Okay. Did they hear anything? Yeah. All right. Thanks for bearing with us. We've never done a virtual Tall Tales before, but we have done a lot of Tall Tales. In fact, I was telling a friend that my first Tall Tales was 1991 when I was a student in the Wildland Studies program. That transformation experience, Howard Mosen was my instructor. Ben Shane was on the team, Jenny Carroll, Jimbo Berkey, and we had spent our first backcountry trip up and over the high pass, down into McCarthy Creek, through the willows and over the high pass, stumbling into town. We'd had a burger, we'd had a hot bucket shower, and a guy named Gary Hickling put on the Tall Tales right in front of the Ma Johnson Hotel. And it was an amazing evening. It was a friend of mine who won, a kid from Stanford University. His name was Charlie. He won with a fiddle on his knee, just a beautiful boy, told a story of a first kiss. And he was so happy. I was thinking about it. I could picture him standing there with that $500 in his fist. $500 bills, because there's a few things that don't change in McCarthy despite everything. The Tall Tales prize has always been $500, and it costs $5 to take a bus to Kennecott. Still, it did back then, and it does today. So there's a sad part of that story. Charlie was the kind of guy that you thought might come back to the Wrangles summer after summer, as many do. And instead, he didn't make it through that year. He died an untimely death in O'Hare Airport, a really sad story that a few of us remember. I think of him today because we have so much death and so much loss. And yet we also have so much love and hope in our community. If anything's gonna keep us going as a human species, it's stories. And I admire the role the Wrangell Mountain Center plays in bringing people together in heartfelt ways. We've always put the heart in science, and we've always let the wild stay alive in our hearts. So with that note, I actually have my sage. You guys know how much I love sage. I'm gonna light us a little Copper River sage. Blessings for this world, as we join one another in supporting the Wrangell Mountain Center and celebrating the power of story. Our first story tonight comes from one of my favorite people, Sam Gregory in Brooklyn. Are you in there, Sam? Did you guys fall asleep yet? It's pretty late.
I'm wide awake without
Oh, there he is! So Sam Gregory, you can read his bio. But I was thinking about Sam, you know, he has been working to make Black Lives Matter on this planet well before it was a movement. And many of you know Sam for his incredibly generous efforts with the Brooklyn to Alaska program. He even weathered the COVID to bring a leadership group. What is it? They had 3 tests in 3 weeks and safely navigated this crazy time to still keep the wilds of Alaska in young people's hearts. I admire that so much about you. He took our baby Emmett, to Dublin for college this summer. Who's over there on the couch? Yay, that's beautiful, Eva. These people, if you don't know them, are Wrangell Mountain family. Gorgeous people. Anything you want to tell us about this story before we start it?
Well, it just comes straight from the heart. I dedicate it to my mother, and you'll see why when you hear the story. But did want to say one thing. If I start drooling, it's because of the background. I can see the bar from my living room here in New Jersey.
All right, Sam. Let's kick it off. Sam Gregory.
And hi everyone, a quick tip: if you want to improve your feed, you can pause your own video if you're having quality issues. Here we go.
This is a story about the most thrilling and imaginative accomplishment of my entire life. On May 12, 1973, which was mine and my twin brother Bobby's 17th birthday, we pulled off one amazing caper. When we were done, we had a trunk full of $100 bills. And all that was thanks to the unwitting generosity, really unwilling generosity of this man, Giovanni Di Benedetti. Mr. Di Benedetti was a neighbor of ours. He lived 3 or 4 streets away, lived in a big house with a chain link fence and 2 huge Rottweilers to patrol the grounds during the nighttime, always inside during the daytime. Because Mr. Di Benedetti didn't work a regular job. He was a mobster. He was home during the daytime and out at night. Mr. Di Benedetti made a huge error in life. He crossed the wrong person. He crossed this woman, Marie Conlon. She was my mother. In 1969, she was at the dry cleaners. Mr. Hans, who's a lovely man, Jewish couple, were in the dry cleaners. They were friends of ours for 25 or 30 years. She was missing some clothes. She dropped her clothes off. She was in the back of the miscellaneous rack. And she heard a noise in the front. And she peeked through the clothes and she saw Di Benedetti come into the dry cleaners. Say, Mr. Hahn, want my fucking money. Mr. Hahn said, Mr. Di Benedetti, next week. Boom, he slapped in the face. Please, Mr. Di Benedetti, please, Mr. Di Benedetti. He said, I want my fucking money. I'll be back next fucking week. I want my money. Boom, he slapped him again. He went out the door, walked away. My mother was in the back, mortified. She ran up to the front. She grabbed Mr. Hahn. Mr. Hahn, you should have said something to help you. Don't worry about it. He said, no, Maria, only one more payment. And so she left. She came home. You have to understand something about my mother. She looked like a regular, everyday suburban housewife, but she was anything but that. By that time, she had 10 children. She was a radical revolutionary. Her entire family had been wiped out in the south of Armagh in Ireland by the British Army 75 years before. She carried that wound with her. She hated the powerful abusing the weak. When she saw it was like a Jewish person being confronted with a swastika, or a black man or woman being confronted with a noose or a burning cross. It was a hatred. She got us together. She told us what happened. She said, I want you to extirpate that man. What that meant was pull out by the roots, eliminate, kill him. She says, he'll do it again. So we started watching to see what we could do. By the fall of 1971, we were outside his house. My brother had a paper route. He would go a half an hour early and watch. He noticed that Di Benedetti would come home every day between 4 and 5. Usually he would come in the driveway, open the gate, go in, pet the dogs, the 2 Rottweilers, go in the house, flick on the light, the dogs would go to the basement. The light would be on for maybe 5 seconds. Every once in a while we'd watch him, we'd see that the light would be on 15, 20 minutes. We noticed a pattern over time, that there was always an announcement of a huge jewel heist the day after this guy would be in the basement for a period of time. We said, this guy's a jewel thief. Bobby says, we're gonna rob him. I said, we can't rob this guy. This guy's got Rottweilers that'll tear you to pieces. He's got guns. He'll whack us and kill us for sure. Bobby says, don't worry, I got a plan. We'll put it together. Within maybe a few days, we had little pieces of cooked steak rubbing against our body and our buttholes, and go pass them to the dogs. The dogs would come up to the fence at first like this. Like that. Pretty soon we pass through. Before too long, we're under the fence, licking, fighting the dogs, letting them lick us and everything else. We had them tamed. Now we had a plan. Okay, we got the dogs tamed. Now all we got to do is figure out how to get inside that basement. We went and bought a glass cutter. We practiced. Boom. Suction cup. We got so good we could cut a glass and make a square hole in it. Boom. Pull the glass out. Open the latch. 5 minutes. We must have bought 30 panes of glass. May 12th, 1973 was the date we planned to do it, our 17th birthday. We got scared about a month before. We started crying, wiping our eyes. He's going to kill us. So we said, who are we going to talk to about this? Went to my only person we knew would be smart, we trust. My older brother, Jerry. I could only say one word. Clark Gable. Dashing, smart, educated. So what do we do? He says, look, you're going to hit him. You got to have a plan. And you got to know what you're after. He gets books on gemology. The next thing you know, he's got books he's showing us. Blue diamonds, most valuable. Pink diamonds, very valuable. Jadeite, super valuable. Regular diamonds, rubies, and emeralds. May 12th comes, 2 o'clock in the morning, we got dark clothes, got the glass cutter, we got the suction cup. He's picked it, went downtown Newark, picked up a 32. Bobby's got a 32 with him. He's going in, I'm the outside man. He's the guy who's got the guts. So we get to the house, under the fence, kiss the dogs, around the back, boom, suck the glass out, open the latch, he's in the basement. I got the outside, I'm the lookout, he's inside. He's got the 32 in his pocket, just a little 32, just a little gun, just enough to whack somebody. So he's in the basement. All of a sudden, after just a few minutes, I see lights of a car coming down the street. So I said, probably just a cop or maybe somebody coming home late early in the morning. Lo and behold, I see the lights turn in towards Mr. De Benedetti's driveway. I look over, I see his black Cadillac. He's home. The first time, so we must have watched him 60 times. Now he's home at 2:15, 2:30 in the morning. I lean in the window, I said, Bobby, those lights are De Benedetti, he's home. I said, we gotta abort this mission. When he goes in the house, you gotta come out. Bobby says, fuck you and fuck him. We're gonna rob this motherfucker. Right? So, and then we'll whack him when we're done with it. So he's down. I said, okay, I'll wait. He comes in, same thing, pets the dogs. He goes into the house. I'm praying it'll just be 5 seconds or 10 seconds and the lights will go off. The lights come on. I see the dogs come flying down the steps right towards Bobby. He's got a thing. He pushes them away. The dogs just walk away. And I said, please don't come down. About 5 seconds later, De Benedetti comes down the stairs. Bobby's over there. Sweat starts pouring off me. I can't tell him he's coming. He probably heard the footsteps. He's got the 32. He's up against the wall. I see the sweat start to roll down his face. I see De Benedetti coming down the stairs towards where he is. I see a confused look on De Benedetti's face, like he knows there's something's up. I say, he's gonna have to kill this guy. He goes towards past the door, then he stops. He goes to the door, he goes in, does his business, he leaves, goes up the stairs. Bobby goes in there, he's in there 45 minutes. He comes out, nothing in the duffel bag we had. I said, what happened? He said, don't worry about it, we got it. We get home. He's got 4 pockets, front and back, full. Blue diamonds, jadeite, pink diamonds, rubies, emeralds, and regular diamonds. We cashed in when we were all done. After we gave 40% is what we fenced it for. We gave away 80% of what we had. We were left with 1.6 million. We spent 4.5 months in Europe at the most beautiful hotel, fanciest restaurant, and the most exciting bordellos with courtesans, satin sheets, and the smell of lavender and honeysuckle. And the best part of it was by October, we were in Europe, we got word that De Benedetti got whacked. So he was gone and we were rich. Thank you. So how long?
All right, that was Sam Gregory. Give it up. Somewhere we have a laugh, an applause button here. Thank you, Sam. Yeah, you guys can applaud with your hands. And by the way, we want to make
Wow.
this as interactive as possible.
That first story was really something. Whew.
All right, remember to mute.
It wasn't an Alaska story, but it was a pretty good story.
Awesome telling.
There we go. So I think y'all are supposed to be muted. We'll see. This is going to be a free flow. Thank you so much, Sam Gregory, for being who you are and telling an awesome story. By the way, I didn't do the best job of reminding you how this is all going to work as MC. Can we share that screen of the participant list there and also the auction? It was on the webpage. That's okay. So we're going to vote. If you have a voter's ticket, you are going to get to vote, and you can buy a voter's ticket on our Eventbrite page, right? You're going to show me that right now, Laura? Here, I'm going to show you the list right here on paper, because I like good old-fashioned paper when there's all these screens going around. Coming up tonight, we got Elizabeth Schaefer, Robin Child, a fellow named Jack Finnegan calling in from Ketchikan, Alaska. Robin Child's from Fairbanks. Elizabeth, Markvale, Monty Monfare of Colorado, LA, and Kennecott Wilderness Guides. And then also Shauna Pataki calling in from Seward, Alaska. We have 7 storytellers tonight, and you're going to want to keep track because somebody's going to win $500 and keep it for themselves, or maybe give it to a cause that they care about. That sometimes happens. Speaking of causes that we care about, we can't go there right now. Hopefully you all know about the silent auction, right? Historically, when we did this in the Golden Saloon, one of my jobs would be to auction off my friends, auction off veggies, auction off original artwork, and I'd go bida, who's got 500, who's got 500, who wants to pay $600 for a massage that you can get for $200? You know, that's a fun part of the event when it's live. That's not happening live, but it is on our Eventbrite. We're gonna throw that contact once more there, my friend Molly. Put that in the chat bar. And do you guys know how to chat? Because we thought, and Dennis knows how to chat. Somebody's walking around. Who is that took the screen? That's Dawn. We thought it would be really neat if everybody just threw in the chat. This is not homework. It is back to school. But if everybody threw in the chat who they are, where they're sitting, screening this evening, and maybe briefly the connection they have to the Wrangell Mountain Center. Just so we can get a sense of our community. And while you're in there, you can also find the betterunite.com, which is where our event auction is happening. I can go there. Okay, you got it? Y'all been here? A lot of amazing items up there. You can either pay outright to support the Wrangell Mountain Center, or you can bid her up. So we have both prices, and that REI flashback pack is going to go soon. We've got espresso makers, tea kettles. This is a hot item, custom portrait. It's not being shared by Kieran. Sorry, we're having a little bit of technical difficulties here. No, never mind. You guys can figure out how to get to the silent auction, right? That's part of what we want to do tonight, is to support the Wrangell Mountain Center. But mostly what we want to do tonight is to, oh yeah, here they come. Sophie, Marco from Brooklyn, Margaret, that would be Meg from Olympia, Dick and Sally from their cabin, Annabelle, we know Annabelle, Roanoke College, Virginia, Milt Mosen from Bozeman, Meredith from Juneau. This is great. Christine Johnson is at the Tony Zach Place. That's our little community center right there in McCarthy. Kristen Link, who's got some artwork in our auction. She is on the Nazina River. Neil, who has sponsored the Rangamont Center Tall Tales contest for ages. He kept this tradition going. He's fronted the prize money for so many years. He's in there. Ben and Amanda on the Nazina. So check out who's with us in the chat room. Obviously, you know how to get to the chat room. And also be sure to check out our Eventbrite page where there's some amazing opportunities to support the center. You also can learn about our sponsors there, which are Agnew Beck Consulting. Thea Agnew has always been a amazing supporter, Agnew Bemben. And we have a new sponsor this year, Uncle Herbs. Find out about him. He's also got an item. Keep you mellow in the COVID. And our final sponsor this year is the Hahn Company. The name of that company would be Uncle Herb, committed to being Alaska's finest cannabis destination. I've never been to that shop, but I think that's a great fit for the times. So, moving right along, Elizabeth Schaefer, are you in the house? If you are, can you unmute and say something? Can we see you? Are you in speaker view?
I'm here hiding under Owen's name.
Woohoo, look at that gorgeous birch. It's still light where you are. It's dark here in Alaska. That's awesome. So Elizabeth Schaefer is a McCarthy institution. I do believe you spent the COVID in McCarthy, right? Beginning in March, did I hear?
Yes, have essentially been in McCarthy since March. You've caught me a half hour into Anchorage this evening. I've been in McCarthy and just made a quick switch for the weekend, town run.
Right on. So Elizabeth Schaefer is an amazing member, amazingly generous member of our community. She works as a park ranger for Wrangell St. Elias National Park. She has worked as a park ranger and also a community planner. She's intimately familiar with these landscapes that wow and enthrall visitors to our community each summer. She's also good at keeping her hominids and her canines happy. That would be Howard and Avery and Owen. She brings first-hand knowledge of this area to her storytelling. And when Elizabeth steps up to Tall Tales, she always owns the stage. Any little inside scoop we need to know about this story, Elizabeth?
No, you just gotta listen. That's the point.
Is it true?
Of course it's true.
Right on. It's great to see you, Elizabeth. Enjoy this next story. Elizabeth Schaefer, McCarthy, Kennecott, Alaska.
I wasn't going to tell a tall tale this year. I didn't really have anything up my sleeve until I realized what the date of this event was, and I thought, I do have a story to tell after all. One of the roles I find myself playing with my family is that of the finder. If anybody misplaces or loses something, I'm the one who gets to find it. Mom, I can't find my bra. Have you looked on the clothesline? Elizabeth, honey, where are my sunglasses? Howard, they're on your head, goofball. Thankfully, that's not the only job I have. I have one that pays. And as part of my job, I get to go on a patrol every summer in remote locations of the park. Several years ago now, I found myself at the airstrip with Cynthia as my partner in crime, my volunteer in the park, as we were getting ready for a trip. Our backpacks were loaded with 6 days of food and fuel and a complicated array of electronic devices. Satellite phone, Bendix King radio, GPS unit, and here comes Stevens trying to hand me a metal detector of all things. What? No, I don't want that. Remember, he says, remember, you're going to the location where the gentleman went missing. Oh, right, the gentleman. Years and years ago now, a gentleman came to go out into the backcountry in September. A solo trip. He was an avid hiker, a photographer, loved nature and the animals. He did not show back up at the airstrip for his pickup. What ensued was a massive, massive search that some of you may well remember. Fixed wing helicopter searching over many square miles, dozens of people with their boots on the ground, marching through the tundra and the brush trying to find him. When the snowstorm set in, they had to call the search off. They didn't find him, much to the devastation of his wife and family. Several years after that, Greg and Kristen found themselves traveling along in the general area, an old vague mining trail, and spotted something up on the alpine bench above them and thought, huh, that doesn't seem quite right. And they climbed up there to take a look, and sure enough, they had found the last resting place of the gentleman. After they reported the discovery, Greg found himself being flown back out to the site with Maddie and Stevens to do the recovery. They pounded a metal stake into the ground right in the middle of all the personal and physical remains. They set out a 20-meter wide grid search, and they got down on their hands and knees for 3 days. They crawled across the tundra, searching every square foot for everything they could find. They found his wallet and finger bones and his belt buckle, boots, leg bone, warm wool hat, and his skull. Back at the airstrip, Stevens is still trying to hand me a metal detector. He said, remember, there were 3 things that we didn't find. There were 3 personal items that we didn't recover when we were out there. Okay, I said, I'll go look, but I'm not taking the metal detector. I plugged the coordinates into the GPS device, and away Cynthia and I go. Several days into our trip, we find ourselves closing in on the location. Hey, look, we're about 100 feet away. We start walking up a little muddy draw, and I lean down and out of the mud, I pull the sodden raincoat. Cynthia's eyes widen. We dig through the pockets of the raincoat, and I pull out the broken eyeglasses. Cynthia is beside herself. You just found the raincoat and the eyeglasses. There's only one thing left to find. We walk up onto the alpine bench. Okay, the GPS device says we're about 30 feet away from where that metal stake was pounded into the ground. Let's see if we can find it. Looking around, I walk forward a few steps. I look between my feet, and I bend down to pick up what my brain is thinking is a piece of garbage, maybe a bottle cap. But what I pick up is the gentleman's gold wedding band. Cynthia is truly beside herself. You found it! You found it! I cannot believe you found the gold wedding band! This is crazy! We haven't been on the ground but 5 minutes, and you have found the raincoat, the eyeglasses, and the gold wedding band! The family is going to be ecstatic! This is crazy! I, too, was beside myself. What I thought was a fool's errand had definitely struck gold. Back in McCarthy, I leave the ring for Stevens on his desk, and I get back to my family and my job. And you know how summers are. Busy. Things get really busy. I gotta find like missing dirty socks for my son. And up at work, I have to tell the locals they need to put their dogs on leash while they're in Kennecott. So it wasn't until September that I got around to cornering Stevens. So how'd it go? How'd it go when you called the widow to tell her about finding the gold ring? Oh, he shakes his head and is sheepish, and he says, I got busy. I didn't do it. I haven't called her. What, Stevens? Dude, we need to tell her. She's gonna want the wedding band back. This is important. He's like, I know. I just haven't done it. I didn't know what to say. We need to do this. We need to do this right now. So we sat down, pulled up the file and the paperwork, dug out the phone number, hoped that it was still good after all these years, and cold called the widow. She answered. Stevens introduced himself. She remembered who he was. I told the story of finding the wedding band, and she started to cry. She was all sorts of mixed up emotions. She was so happy to be recovering the matching band to her very own. She was so sad to be reliving the loss of her husband yet again. And she was just so appreciative of us for remembering to go back out into the field and look one more time. She regained her composure and paused and said, do you know what today is? No, what do you mean? Today's date. Today is the 10-year anniversary of the recorded date of death on his death certificate. It has been 10 years since my husband died. Today, September 19th. 100% true, honest. If you find yourself missing anything valuable, give me a call. I work on commission.
All right, now I'll go for it. Elizabeth Schaefer, give it up. We do have that was wonderful, and I remember that. Aww, that was awesome. I found this incredible rock once out there. Can you see it? My special rock. You all know my rock? My licking rock, the one that they found. Were you there when I found that rock, Elizabeth? It's not as cool as a wedding ring, but almost magic rock. Yes. Okay, that's an inside joke, and I apologize if we have a lot of inside jokes here. Thank you for that story, for that memory, and thank you for all you do, Elizabeth Schaefer, holding our town together, keeping the spirit alive. Coming up next, I am supposed to keep the home fire burning faster. So I could spend forever introducing our next dude, John Christopher Monty Montepari. Are you out there somewhere? Is Monty in the house? Can he unmute? Is he not?
I can. I'm here. What's up, Nancy?
Your video, dude. I want to see what you're doing with your beard. No video?
Oh, there I am. Hi.
There he is. Are you in a car?
I am. I'm in a car. I have a dog.
Are you on a freeway?
I'm out.
No. Bring it back. Bring it back.
Yeah.
All right. You look gorgeous, Monty. Are you driving?
The shortest my beard's been since the last time I didn't go to McCarthy 15 years ago.
Right on. Where are you driving exactly? Not driving, right?
101 in Los Angeles, California. The most McCarthy place I could be.
Right on. So, by the way, if you haven't, just the other night in the middle of COVID when I was feeling lonely, I watched every single one of your YouTube videos all in a row. It was like better than The Office, Monty. Yes. We can't see you now. And that's where that inside joke comes from. Oh, that's what you're doing.
Up to my phone for hear you. I continue to have just technical difficulties throughout this whole process. Recording the video, getting the video to John. I'm a lot better when I just have to show up at the bar.
Oh, me too, man. I miss seeing you show up at the bar. Monty, in addition to being...
it's been wonderful to see everyone's faces and hear the stories.
All right, we're gonna stream to Monty here in just a minute. If you don't know him, comedian, mountain guide, co-owner of Kennecott Wilderness Guides, co-founder of the truly amazing Pack Raft Festival, 3-time Moth Story Slam winner, Moth Grand Slam champion, keynote speaker. Now this is a real claim to fame. Keynote speaker at the 218 Ouray Ice Climbing Festival. Not everybody gets to put that on their resume. I like to believe that maybe our Tall Tale contest played a tiny part in encouraging Monty to take his storytelling to the next level. But truly, I imagine this dude rock climbed out of his mama's uterus with stories pouring from his lips and skis upon his bare footies. So give it up and enjoy Monty Montepari.
Hey, love you, Nick.
It was near the end of a campfire evening behind the guide service in Kennecott. Before Kevlar got up to leave, he asked if anybody was off the next day. he was looking for an adventure partner. Everybody else had to work guiding on the glacier, ice climbs, glacier hikes, but I was off. Or like we like to say, open program. I was 21, it was my second season in McCarthy. I had survived my first year and learned the big lesson that I had a lot left to learn. Kevlar is a human person, but is also an Alaskan mythological being. He's the middle brother of the illustrious three Smith brothers, originally from Connecticut, long arms, long legs, curly dark hair, each one of them bigger, louder, and faster talking than the last. Kevin got the nickname Kevlar from a pair of skis with that name from the Smith brothers' time in Utah, but the nickname stuck because Kev is tough. I walked hundreds of miles in my lifetime of the Wrangell Mountains with Kevin Smith, and he never once got a blister. I don't think dude even gets hot spots. But this was before all of that. This would be Kevin and I's first day in the mountains together. And that night before he left, he said, oh yeah, I've been scoping it, looks good, scrambly alpine, up to a cirque type of deal, and maybe some steep snow probably, and to a ridge type of thing, and top of Amazon there, easy down, maybe ice tools could be good. And I gotta take care of a couple things, so I'll see you in the morning, bye. By the time Kevlar says bye, he is already gone. And later on in our adventure partnership, I would come to cherish the brevity of our pre-trip discussions. We knew both of our kits were set, and we were just gonna trade off dinners. You're on your own for breakfast and lunch, see you in the morning. But this first night, I did not sleep trying to decipher Kev's route description into a gear list. How scrambly was this alpine? What is a cirque type of deal or a ridge type of thing? Steep snow, probably. Ice tools could be good, maybe. I had no idea what size backpack or what to put in it. Kev showed up in the morning wearing Wrangler jeans, a cotton t-shirt, a baseball cap, and a thrift store fleece he had wrapped around his waist. His backpack looked empty, but he assured me he had ice tools and enough food, and don't bring water, there's water everywhere. I skimmed down my kit and immediately started trying to keep up with Kevin. It was his 40th birthday. I was just under 20 years younger than him, and I was grabbing for tail feathers right off the bat. And we weren't on the trail either. Kev is just in the woods, and then he's over here in the moraine and walking with his arms out, pretending like he's flying. I was trying to be a serious guide this summer, and that was not Kev's vibe out there. It was serious, but it was also a game. Walking through the woods, Kev grabbed a stick and fashioned it into a hiking pole. I did the same. At this point, I'm pretty much mimicking his every movement. We get to the scrambly alpine, and I get to see Kevlar float up a mountain for the first time. He's looking for efficiency, fluid movement, showing me little steps the vegetation is creating, talking about the ideal percentages of dirt, rock, and veg for uphill travel. We get to the top to what can only be described as a cirque type of deal, and see that it's full of fog, curtains of it blowing towards us. I follow Kevlar into the fog, and my boots feel loose on the talus. So I stop to tighten them, but I can't quite get my feet to feel right. But I don't want to lose Kev, who's continued on in front of me, so I just keep hiking. I can see his silhouette so distinct in the fog, his gait, that stick we kicked up in the woods. But as I get closer to Kevin, he stops, turns around, and he is 18 years old. Not, it feels like he's 18 years old, not like there's an 18-year-old aura about him. Standing in front of me is 18-year-old Kevin Smith, like he'd been plucked from line at a Grateful Dead show. I feel this hot panic rush through my whole body, head to toe. Why did my feet feel so weird? I pull off my sunglasses to use them as a mirror, and looking back at me, judging by sideburn length, is my 16-year-old self. I look up at Kevlar. He just smiles and says, "Oh yeah," and runs into the fog. My brain is moving 1,000,000 miles an hour. Am I dehydrated? Did I not eat enough food? Did Kevlar dose me when we ate trail mix earlier? Did I never wake up this morning? But all my body wants to do is what it's been doing all day. Follow Kevlar. So I let it. And I run as fast as my 16-year-old legs can take me across the talus, and eventually I gain view of Kevin. He looks over his shoulder and smiles at me. It's just two young kids with sticks they found in the woods running across the side of a mountain. And we get to the bottom of the steep snow that would probably be there, and before I can fire into all these questions, 18-year-old Kevin just turns around, looks at me, takes his baseball cap off, puts it on backwards, and pulls up his ice tools. And it is the coolest thing 16-year-old me has ever seen. And Kevlar starts climbing up the steep snow, and I'm right there with him. And the snow gets steeper and steeper, but we are fueled by the invincibility of youth. We're cruising, we're flying, we're breathing, we're laughing, we're finding holds, we're kicking steps. We get to the top, to this rocky outcrop that can only be described as a ridge type of thing. The fog moves over us, starts to break up. You can see blue skies beyond, the glacier below. Just a couple kids hanging out on a mountain eating trail mix. Kevlar gets up and starts to walk down the ridge, and it snaps me out of this trance I'm in. I want questions. How did this happen? I feel like I'm me, but I am 16. I asked Kev, "Did you know this was going to happen?" And he quickly says, "Oh, no. But I see something behind his eye, and I push him farther. I say, "Did you know it could happen?" And Kevlar just takes a couple more steps on the ridge towards the glacier. He puts his arms out by his sides. He looks over his shoulder and says, "Oh yeah." And then Kevlar flies off the ridge.
All right. Woohoo! That was Monty. Can you hear my applause? Or is that super annoying? Let's do it again. Okay. All right. I think that might be enough of that. Thank you, Monty. Are they hearing that? I know. I'm trying to play this screen thing in the background, and now I can't stop it. Here we go. All right. Oh, and by the way, I just have to nod out and say that the marvelous Maria Shell's face popped up there for some reason. Maria, you still there? Just a second so I can see you. Gorgeous thing.
Hi, Nancy.
Well, too. Oh my goodness. Thank you. Maria's the one who's got that upcycled wearable art on the auction. Is that sold yet? Or do I need to make a bid? Maria Shell has been a huge part of our live auctions and everything that happens live at the Rainbow Mountain Center for so many years. Bless you, Maria, for everything you've done for our little nonprofit and for our community at large, for your great spirit. Maria finally stepped down from the board after 14 years. I think you get some kind of gold medal for being on the board for 14 years, right? So give it up for Maria Shell. And check out her amazing wearable art, which is a part of tonight's auction. Molly, you have some wearable art as well that you are going to show, right? Are you ready to go? We'll see you soon, Maria. I missed you this summer.
Hi, Nancy.
I love what you're doing. No.
Oh, I was gonna say, I am wearing, I'm out here in Anchorage right now, but I'm wearing the I'd Rather Be in the Wrangles t-shirt, which is an item in our auction. So if you want an I'd Rather Be in the Wrangles shirt as well, make sure to head on over. And anyway, thanks, Nancy. Good to see all these wonderful faces on here. Thanks for being
Molly, I'd rather be pack rafting on that little lake behind you with all those icebergs. Woohoo! Looking good. So we're gonna have one more story before we take a really special kind of break that's called a breakout room. Also like a virtual kissing booth, I'd like to believe. So you're gonna get a chance to say hello to some of your neighbors and tell some stories. But before that, we are gonna hear from a very, very special storyteller. I'm kind of blown away that I've only known Shauna Pataki for 1 year now, because I feel like I've known her forever. She's part of what we now call the River Song family, and I'm actually going to change my screen in honor of our next story. One of my personal favorite programs that happens at the Rainbow Mountain Center is a wilderness writing and songwriters program called River Song. About the most fun you can have, legally, illegally, anywhere. We have flags, rainbow flags, we have boats, we have fires, we have a good time. And every once in a while, we have a little bit of chaos to bring the group together and build the community spirit. And I do believe our next story is about that. Our next storyteller is Shauna Pataki, writer, poet, painter. She has a deep love of glacial landscapes, jagged peaks and fjords, and also dogs, which she allows to sleep in the bed. Come on up, Shauna. Are you unmuted with your speaker view going?
I don't know if I've got my speaker view, but my camera is on.
There she is. Thanks for speaking up so I didn't blab over your whole intro. Shauna is also a park ranger. She's chief of interpretation at Kenai Fjords. And last time I talked to Shauna, she was telling me about the amazing anti-racism work she's doing in her own communities. And I truly cannot think of another better person to do that than your gentle, careful spirit. If you would like to learn more about Shauna's art, poetry, workshops, etc., please visit seasmokearts.com. That's on our page. Anything special we should know about this upcoming story, Shauna?
I love you, River family.
We love you, Sister Shauna. We might get to talk a little bit more about that after, but join us in the Nazina Canyon. You ready to roll, Molly?
Hey McCarthy, this is Shauna P. coming to you for Tall Tales and my story called One Chance. Some say when an eagle comes to you, it's the closest you can get to touching the Great Spirit. This is what I can recall. I remember us floating down the river towards the Nazina Canyon when a bald eagle, wings spread wide, came gliding down over our raft, face turned sideways and making eye contact. I remember in that moment that the river fell silent, and watching that eagle disappear over the canyon walls, I thought, wow, that's something. And then I turned my vision to the rafts going down the river in front of us, 3 boats in a line, disappearing beyond the blind turns, their bright flags waving in the sunlight. And I remember our raft at some point crossed a current that had carried the other boats around the turns, and we were headed towards a rock wall. And I thought, maybe we'll just bounce off of it. We didn't bounce off of it. We hit that rock wall like a damn car crash, and there was metal twisting and grating across the rock, and the boat was torquing and twisting. And I remember that the raft started to hit the wall, hit the wall, hit the wall, climb the wall, getting vertical along the wall, and the raft was getting taller and taller out of the water, climbing the wall until at last it was vertical. And we were all standing there trying to counterbalance the boat, and we turned around, standing on the rails, looking down at the water. And I remember us grabbing onto each other for a split second. And as I looked at my feet, the roiling waters coming into the raft, I yelled, "No!" And then there was a long silence. I don't know how long. But I opened my eyes and I looked around, looking around, trying to see, but I couldn't see anything. And so I was looking and looking and looking, and I started to feel around. Where am I? Feeling. I'm under the boat. I'm under the boat. Oh my God, I'm under the boat. I have to get out from under the boat. Feeling around, I'm under the boat. What do I do to get out from under the boat? And with that, the raft went shooting out from the wall into the main current of the river, and I got pushed out behind it, popping up in the current behind the flipped over raft, gaining speed going down the river. And I heard a voice yell to me, "Swim for the raft, swim for the raft." So I swam as fast as I could towards the raft that was leaving me. And I reached out and I grabbed one of the rings on the back of the raft and held on. And for a moment, I realized that I couldn't see over the raft. I couldn't see what was coming. I could hear the roiling sound of the river, my head at the water level, the water turning in my ears, but I couldn't see anything that was coming. I had no idea where we were going. And I started calling out in the canyon, "Help me, help me." And you could hear my voice echoing down the canyon. We started gaining momentum down the river, and the raft swiveled on the current. And I went from the back of the raft to the front of the raft, and it started pushing against my face. And I looked to my left, and there was Brad. Brad and I had just met a day and a half before. And when our eyes met, in that moment, it was like no other eye contact I've ever had. And I swear I could hear his thoughts, because I couldn't hear his voice over the water. And I knew that he knew we had one chance. He had one chance, and I had one chance. Brad threw me a rope bag back behind my head, and as the river delivered me down the current into the rope, I grabbed for it and tried to hold on to it, but I couldn't hold on, so I wrapped it around my wrist, because I'd already been in the water too long. And even though they say not to wrap it around, the alternative was worse. And at some point I could hear Brad say, "Let go of the boat. Shauna, let go of the boat." So I let go of the boat. I don't remember being pulled across the river. I vaguely remember being airborne, reborn, newborn on the bow of the other raft. And I remember hearing my whispered voice in my own ears saying, "Help me." What I'd find out later is that I repeated that for minutes on that raft, through blue lips and gray dull eyes. From that moment to the moment that we made it to the confluence, it was all collaboration, teamwork, dedication, and heroics. Everybody on the raft trip had made it down to that rogue raft that was now swirling around in the keeper eddy at the bottom of the canyon with derelict logs and debris. They pulled all of our carabiners and all of our lines and rigged a Z line, and all lined up would count down and then pull and pull and pull to try and flip that damn raft. And as they would lift it up, all of our bags dangling in the air, and it wouldn't flip, and it would go right back down into the water. Until 1 minute before our agreed upon time to call for rescue, and the entire group lined up, counted down, and pulled and pulled and pulled, determined, and that raft came up and teetered, trying to decide which way it would go, until at last it gave in and flipped over. We all got into the rafts and made our way to the camp at the confluence of the Chitna and the Nizina. And it was there that we contemplated the real meaning of river family. It was there that we also contemplated that we all have one chance, that's right now, to realize what really matters. I didn't make it to the end of that trip. I came back to Seward and walked the waterfront, contemplating the question that the river asked me, what really matters? And I found the answer. So now, I'd like to ask you the question that the river asks. With your one chance that you have right now, what really matters? Thank you so much for your time and attention. Happy Tall Tales.
Oh, thank you so much, Shauna P. That story rocks my world still every time I hear it. Are you seeing my screen right now? Yeah. This is that River Song workshop. Best time you ever have. I'm sorry, my breath's a little taken away. Still thinking about that day. What she shared was definitely pretty dang true, including that eagle circling over. And by the way, on that trip, saving the day with their entire heart out front. I mean, we were a team. We were a human animal. We were a water spider paddling upstream in the canyon with Michelle and Robin in the boat. Also, the wonderful Chris Brothers who threw the line that saved some swimmers. It's an amazing memory, which takes us nicely into our next storytellers. In the interest of time, I'm going to talk to Robin Child after her story. And by the way, I've been asked to share the fact that this next story, which is really amazing, is a little bit too long. You will not be bored, I promise you that, but out of fairness for everyone, because this is 10 minutes and not 8 minutes, we're not going to be able to give this one the $500. But these storytellers, I'll tell you a secret, Robin has a helper. His name is Sasquatch. These storytellers are made of gold. They don't need $500, right? So we're gonna see our next story, and then we're gonna talk to Robin Child in Fairbanks. Thank you again so much for sharing that story, Shauna. All right, ready for Robin? There she is. I wanna love and be loved. Robin Child.
Good evening. My name is Robin Child, and I'm going to tell you the story of the first time I ever heard about Sasquatch. I was sitting up in the Fenton house up in Kennecott on an old musty futon, And we just spent the day on the ice, new guide training, and sitting having dinner and sharing a couple beers and stories. And there was this new fella by the name of Chris Brothers who was telling a story that evening, standing by the old piano in the corner, and he had us all in tears. And I thought I might kind of like this guy. But there was one part of his story that I didn't quite understand. And that was, why did Sasquatch have a bouquet of flowers in his hand? So this is that story. It all starts with a lonesome banjo player sitting on the mine tailings, playing to the moon, and staring across the valley at Fireweed Mountain. And she sang this song. I wanna love and be loved. I wanna taste the salt of the broad sea's back. I wanna be tempted by the wind, blown by his gales and blows all the need to float. Taste that salt on your lips, wind in your hair. And I know that these things that I wish, well, they'll all come in time. The clouds are bright, and the moon it is light. Far on the other side of the world, in the land a long way from Kennecott, Alaska, was Sasquatch. He was sitting under the same moon, and he heard that sound of the banjo twinkling on the wind, and he sang,
I wanna love and be loved.
and he started to walk towards that sound, towards that song. He walked through his deep, dark woods, the place of his birth. He strode across whole rivers in just one step. He reached the mighty plains and walked and walked and walked until he reached a great ocean. He could see the land on the other side, but he knew that the only way to get there was to swim.
And everybody knows Sasquatch do not like swimming.
But he remembered the words of that song, and he dove right in, and he swam and he swam and he swam and he swam, trying not to think about all the things that the salt water was doing to his beautiful coat, until he pulled himself up on the shore. When he got there, he shook off and pulled himself up, and he suddenly felt this big gust of wind, and it started to lift him up into the air, and he was frightened.
Because everybody knows Sasquatch does not like the wind.
He started to get pulled up and up and up and up and up, and he let himself be pulled because he knew he was going towards that banjo song. He remembered the words and decided to float. The air got colder. He was heading north. And he finally came to rest on a ridge surrounded by glaciers. He was starting to wonder if he was in the wrong spot until he heard the song again. I wanna love and be loved. I want you to hold me tight like a drop in a loop inside. I wanna run up on that ridge, rolled in red and green and gold and the roots of a wild rose. I feel that rain on my cheeks and that mud in my know that these things that I wish will all come in time. The clouds are bright, the moon it is light. And Sasquatch sang,
I wanna love and be loved.
so he started to walk across that ridge. And he saw that on the hillsides around him grew wild roses and lupins. And he decided he was gonna have to pick them. So he took a deep breath. And he bent down to start picking.
Everybody knows Sasquatch are mildly affected by seasonal allergies.
He remembered the words to those songs, and he filled his arms with a beautiful bouquet and continued to stride along the top of the ridge, bouquet in hand. He started to descend down into the valley, and the banjo was getting louder, and he heard the voice one more time. I wanna love and be loved, feel like a cool embrace of a blue ice cake. I wanna be broken like that lake, water rushing to my toes, all I need to float. Trust that blue in your eyes, the river of your skin. And I know that these things that I wish, they'll all come in time. The clouds are bright, the moon it is light. And Sasquatch sang,
I wanna love and be loved.
so he went into that blue ice cave till he couldn't see the light from the entrance anymore. He knew it was gonna get him closer to that banjo player. And just when he was at the darkest part of the cave, the cave started to fill with water. Water rushed all around him. A yokalak was happening. Water filled his mouth and his eyes and his nose and his lungs, and he was gasping for air when suddenly he was pushed up into the air by a geyser that shot him way high in the valley, and he came down, 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 down to rest on the white ice of the glacier. He shook the water from his face, spitting it out of his mouth. He still somehow had those flowers in hand. And when he looked up, he saw the banjo lady on the ridge above him. He walked over and he handed her a bouquet of flowers. And they've been friends ever since. So that's the story of why Sasquatch carried that bouquet of flowers. And if you want to hear the story that I heard in the Fenton house, then you're just gonna have to ask my husband. That's all, folks.
Woo! Gone wild. Oh my God, I think that was an announcement. Did anybody hear that? Oh boy. Are you guys out there? Chris and Robin, I don't see. I tried every phone number in my... You're the Silks. There they are! Woohoo! You're in McCarthy. Is that Spencer? You guys have been there for time? Oh my God, party in the Fenton house. Could you guys all come a little closer to the screen? We know how good looking Robin is, but we want to see the rest of you. Jack, come on up. Spence! Okay, that is so fun. And I did want to say, because that was a great reveal. Despite the COVID, you married the Sasquatch, is that correct? Yay. Is your audio off? Oh, just keep smiling. Here's a picture Robin sent me in the mail. Anyway, we can't hear you for some reason, but we just heard you. Chris, you're the man in the family. Could you solve the audio, please? Okay, well, we must have a bad connection. Okay. If I turn off my thing. Oh, there we go. Why do you think we can't hear them? All right. Well, I don't know about anybody else, but that song gave me the shivers, so I had to go put on my ancient Wrangell Mountain Center sweatshirt and think about my river people and how happy they make me. We can't hear you guys, but we can see you, and we're so happy you're part of our little town, and that now, look at Sasquatch in the back is doing push-ups on the ceiling or something. All right. We got enough of you. That was beautiful. Thank you so much. If you can't tell, I love these two people. And I tell you what, it is a wonderful feeling in your heart when someone you love a lot finds someone to love a lot, and you love that person a lot just as much. And that is Chris and Robin. They're supposed to have a giant wedding this summer, which couldn't happen due to the COVID, but they hitched up anyway, and they're living happily ever after in Fairbanks and also on McCarthy South Hill. Lucky me. Love you guys. We might get a chance to hear a little bit more music from Ms. Robin. So, you know, it turned out that that kissing booth I was talking about, which would be really appropriate right now after we had a kind of marriage.
Hey, can you hear us?
Oh, now we can hear you.
Yeah.
Talk to us. That was awesome.
Oh, thank you. Well, I just wanted to say quickly, we're in Kennecott, we re-recorded to make it shorter, and I managed to get it into an appropriate time frame, but it says it's going to take about 7 hours to upload, so I'm glad you guys got to see the long version. And you know what? Being in Kennecott and being with all of our good friends is worth way more than 500 bones. So,
well, I thought that was absolutely amazing. Celebrating all of your many talents and yours as well, Mr. Brothers. And I'm meant to tell you that if you go to the Better Unite website, which just got thrown in the chat box again, with a thank you to Britta, which is great. She worked so hard on that website. But Robin Child has a wonderful 1-hour art lesson where your kid could learn to make a cranky. She's the queen of crankies. She's not a cranky person in any way, but she loves to make crankies. And it sure is good to see you all together. I can't wait till the next time we are together. We just have 2 stories left. Unfortunately, what I envisioned as the kissing booth, the breakout rooms, which I love to do with my students, is not actually possible. We didn't set up a room to do that. So we're just going to keep on rolling. And we do have a special musical treat at the end here, so you're not going to want to leave. We're going to take it to the one man in our Zoom room who I have never met until this evening, but he sure as heck seems cool. Jack, you out there to say hello? Jack,
I'm here. Hi,
There
thank you
he
all.
is.
It is such a great pleasure to be part of this obviously very special event, and it would be my great honor to be part of it in person someday, but I'm really pleased to be here with all of you this evening.
All right. Nice fish on the wall there. That looks like a halibut.
Halibut and yellow eye, those are some Gyatako prints by my friend Rachel from here
Beautiful.
in Ketchikan. She's a commercial fisherwoman and helicopter pilot and an artist as well.
Awesome. And there's somebody hiding in the corner of your thing. Is she all choked up about the Sasquatch love story? Hello. Nice to meet you both. So Jack Finnegan's been telling stories, performing for more than 30 years. He is in Ketchikan, veteran of the stage. He's worked professionally as an actor and a director. He's a humanist and a student of philosophy. I love that. Gosh knows we need a little more philosophical inquiry in this world these days. Seeking truth with a capital T, no denial. He endeavors to squeeze every bit of life out of the very marrow of his transitory journey here on Earth. And how did you do that today, Jack? How did you squeeze the marrow today?
Well, I had to work today, so I spent about, I don't know, 3 minutes every 20 minutes grabbing what sunlight I could find on a pretty nice day here in what's been a very wet summer in Ketchikan. So as often as I could, I popped outside and just took in the sun, watched salmon running up Ketchikan Creek, watched seals chasing those salmon, and just gave thanks for the good life that I have here in Alaska.
Oh, thank you, Jack, for giving thanks and for being with us. You're reminding me that I got to see clear sky for the first time in 2 weeks. We're really part of Oregon that's gotten hammered in a big way. I've been watching other institutes on par with the Ring Mountain Center, a place called the Andrews Experimental Forest, Opal Creek Ancient Forest Center, so many places that have been threatened, Brighton Bush Conference Center, just places where communities like our own come together to be watching salmon and watching grizzlies. And it's not an easy time to be a nonprofit in Oregon, that's for sure, or anywhere really. So Jack, we appreciate that you're coming to tell your story to help our cause. Are we ready to stream Jack Finnegan, Molly? Here he comes.
I had only been to Plaza Mayor once before the day that I performed there, and that first visit was 60% exploration and 40% reconnaissance for this very moment, which was the culmination of about 3 years of work, and I was terrified. On that first visit, I let myself get the lay of the land, stepped out across the stones of that dry and dusty city square, admired the imposing facade of the National Cathedral and the stunning iconography within, sat in silence with the people at prayer in the pews there. In front of the National Palace of Culture, a makeshift stage had been assembled where a series of citizens spoke in favor of their preferred presidential candidates. And in that year of 2011, there were nearly a dozen people running for that office. And though I didn't understand their Spanish, I watched those speakers very closely, paying attention to their gestures and facial expressions, listening to the dynamism of their inflection and tone, and hoped that when I gave my performance, which would be in English, that people might observe me in the same way. And if they didn't pick up my intent from the language I was using, they might at least determine from my facial expressions and gestures and body language that I was there as a neighbor and friend. I had no way of knowing, but I was about to find out. Directly across from the National Cathedral, there is a portion of Plaza Mayor that is known as Parque Centenario, where you'll find a small grove of trees which provide limited shade from that brutal Central American sun. And on my first visit there, beneath those trees, I found a flurry of activity. Shoeshine boys with wooden boxes polishing the shoes of the men who lingered there, for whom shining footwear seemed to be something of a personal point of pride in this dusty space. There were girls in brightly colored traditional dresses selling little bags of dried fruit and nuts. Elderly women holding mangoes in their hands at which they would hack with machetes, cutting those fruits into bite-sized bits that they'd place into pouches and sell to passers-by. And on the occasion of that first visit, a preacher with a microphone and a battery-powered speaker slung from his hip, proselytizing to a pretty good-sized group of Guatemalans, which gave me the sense that public speaking, at least, was slightly permissible in this place. But more important to my purposes were two structures which stood nearby. One was an outdoor amphitheater, which was surrounded by a gate which was locked, unfortunately. Otherwise, I might have taken to that stage for my performance. And the other was the Biblioteca Nacional, the National Library of Guatemala. And by positioning myself between these two structures, I hoped that the intent of my project might at least be symbolized as being one part theater, two parts the sharing of knowledge. But now it was my time to speak. There was no preacher present. I was the only person, apart from a smattering of folks hanging out in the shade beneath those trees. And I don't know if I can do this. There is a deep but narrow gap between all the plotting and planning and thinking that goes into making your dream a reality, and that step that brings that dream out of the abstract into myself at that precipice. I didn't know where to begin. I knew exactly what I wanted to say. I just couldn't bring myself to speak. I took a deep breath, tried to gather my courage. I glanced at the time. It was nearly noon. Okay, I told myself, I'll give myself the chimes from the National Cathedral. When those bells conclude their ringing, they will launch me into my performance. And the bells came and rang 2, 3, 4, all the way up through 12. And I paced in little circles, scared. Of what? I couldn't tell you. Maybe it's because I was alone. But I wasn't alone in spirit. I thought of my friends and my family, my backers. I thought of the pitch that I'd made in my crowdfunding bid when I'd proclaimed that the animating spirit of this project was agape, a Greek word for a form of love that the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. described as an understanding, redemptive goodwill toward all people. I believe in that. I'm just a storyteller on a curb. In the big picture, this performance doesn't matter. But that doesn't mean it's not important, because it's important to me. I can do this. Buenas tardes, my voice cracked. Me llama es Jack Finnegan. I come from America to tell you stories of my homeland. I am traveling the world collecting stories of the people and the places of our planet so that I may return home and travel America telling stories about our global neighborhood. And I began my performance. And to my delight and dismay, almost everyone ignored me. For one moment, when I shouted, they turned and looked and then quickly returned to their business, save for one fellow who poorly hid the fact that he was staring at me from over the top of his newspaper. But as I continued performing, it became easier to relax, not only because I had told the story so many times already, but because in a way it brought me home, sharing perspectives on our country from the sidewalks of our cities and the train tracks that connect them, moving from New York City to Boston to Cleveland and over to Detroit, down to Chicago and up to Madison, Appleton, Milwaukee, onto the Twin Cities and Fargo, and all the way to Seattle. And as the story continued, I was amazed to discover that a group was gathering. Men and women both, mostly middle-aged, some a little bit older, taking seats in the shade on those benches beneath those trees. I shot down the West Coast from Seattle to Portland, San Francisco, LA, hook around the corner to Houston, to New Orleans, Memphis, Nashville, Chattanooga, and on to Atlanta, and they're sitting passively, quietly, maybe just politely, barely registering a reaction as I grow more and more animated, coming near the end of my performance, shooting up the East Coast of the States now to Raleigh, DC, Philadelphia, and back home, closing the loop to New York. And I've done it. I've gotten through it. And nothing has gone wrong, nothing's blown up in my face, and I give a tiny little bow, not for applause, but to thank them for sharing this near hour with me. And I step forward to meet them and to speak to them and to try to get some sense of how much they might have understood in my limited Spanish or with their limited English, and they receive me with warmth and etiquette, politeness, and a bit of puzzlement, but I am elated and retreat to my corner and extract from my pocket my digital recorder with which I now want to record a video of the triumph of having given my first performance, which I might post to my project website later this afternoon, when I hear a metallic clack from somewhere behind me. And the group rises up in unison and surges past. And I turned to watch them walking into the area in front of that amphitheater where a marimba band had set up. And it dawns on me that none of these people are here to see me at all. They're waiting for the music and the dancing. And I smile at myself and at this moment of serendipity, and I do the one and only thing that makes any sense at all. I walk to that space with them and join them in
Thank you, John. I like it. Not John, that's Jack. Thank you, Jack. Aw. And thank you to my friend Pierre, who tuned in from Lopez Island, but he's run out of batteries on his camping trip. So he is having to leave for us. Great story, Jack. I'm still thinking about that one, actually. Welcome to our community of storytelling. Stories are truly so important. I kind of forgot for a few minutes about all of the BS in the world. Kind of forgot about all the work we still have to do. And I'm just happy to be with you guys. Speaking of being together, normally around this time of night on Tall Tales, I thank the whole big crew of the WMC for all that they do. It wasn't a really big crew this year. It was our guy, John Erdman, holding it together, holding down the fort there at the WMC. Thank you so much, John. As you know, we have the silent auction going. You gonna show them that, my friend Laura? The silent auction gives you a chance to bid on all that stuff if you've figured out how to sign in. And if you haven't figured out how to sign in, the marvelous Molly Milius, who put so much work along with Britta into this auction, type her a chat and she will respond, I do believe. Here it comes again. Thanks, Britta, for sharing that. If you don't feel like buying an item, you can also just contribute to well drilling. Nothing like a bunch of wildfires to remind us how important a well-functioning well would be to the owners of an old wooden building. This has been something we've been hoping to reach our goal. We have $6,000 to match donations if we can make this excellent improvement to happen. So think about that. And this year we're doing it a little bit different. I won't be announcing the winners of the silent auction, because you will have another 24 hours. We realize you're totally riveted to these stories at this point. Brita, I'm sorry, Brita. I called her Brita like a water filter, and her name is Brita. I fixed it. Brita put together our auction, and I am babbling. We have just one story left before we vote, and then we also have a really special surprise from Southern Oregon, from the heat of wildfire country. One of our favorite McCarthy members, Michelle McAfee, is with us, and she's going to sing us a song. Can't wait. Don't go to bed yet. Keep your batteries charged. But before that, Mark Vale, are you in the house? Mark. Thanks again, Jack. Mark
Hello,
Vale,
Nancy.
there he is. Oh my God, is it snowy in Fireweed already?
It snowed on Fireweed this morning.
Awesome. Cool. Do you want to start your video, or are you just going to give us that beautiful picture of you and your beard?
My video was turned off on me.
Okay, well, your sound is awesome, which is fantastic. Is that true that his video was turned off, though, Molly?
They
We
were
can see
trying to improve everyone's audio.
Oh,
Now my
okay.
video. I'm back. Hello.
There he is, Mark Vale. That's
In the
awesome. Are you sure we're not at the North Pole? That is fabulous. Great to see you, Mark Vale. I called
Good
Mark
to
the
see
other day.
Right. It's good to see everybody out tonight. It's a great evening.
Mhm. Yeah. So I was talking to Mark when he was canning up stuff the other day. You had a great year in the garden, right?
Yeah, thanks to some of my friends in the wilderness.
We're going to hear about that in this story. Did you hear about the worldwide shortage on mason jars related to the COVID?
I ended up paying $16 a box for canning lids, and they came from China.
That's awesome. I was thinking, Mark Vale, well, you have more canning jars than anybody on the planet, I think. Wouldn't
They're
you
all
say?
full now. They're
Really?
all full. I got 25 cases full.
Way to go, Mark Vale. That is awesome.
There's still enough food in the garden for everybody to come have a salad of kale tomorrow.
Right on. Cool. Go see him, but I know you're taking social isolation seriously, so walk slowly, wear a mask. Mark Vale, if you don't know him, he's an iconic member of our town. He arrived to the Wrangles in 1977, and he's calling us from his cabin at the Fireweed subdivision, which is a little further out of town. He spent 2 decades living on less than $2,500 a year. So he is the true subsistence farmer. He gardens, he cans, he lives off the land, and social isolation is no big deal for him, but for us it's a big deal because we usually get to see quite a bit of him in the summer when he delivers greens and when he gets his groove down on the Golden Saloon floor. I'm a little bit worried about the universe. Like, how are we going to get by without Mark Vale and Diane Milliard wiggling their butts in front of some Wild Mountain band? I think that's part of social evolution. I miss seeing you on the dance floor, Mark, but I love seeing you right here. Are we ready for this story, everybody? Take it away. Okay.
I'm here to recount the season of carnivores in my garden. So I grow garden so that I can eat in the wintertime. And I've been growing greens, lettuce, kale, herbs. All these years, I processed them. As the season would have it, I had an abundance of time to spend alone with the plants. Sort of. I started them in a neighbor's house at the end of February because I was going to travel and I got stuck waiting a month for a day to get above 40 degrees to bring my plants home so that I could continue growing them out. I planted in May, and on summer solstice, I harvested my first greens to take to town. In doing so, I uncovered the plants of their frost covers and let them soak in the full sun of the day while I collected greens and took them into town. I returned 2 hours later, only to discover that the moose that I've long called Leaper had been watching me uncover the plants, and she jumped the 6-foot fence and ate 40 cabbages while I was gone and pretty much stomped through the garden, nibbling here and there. She was gone when I got home. I was totally devastated, so I went home to recoup, and on the way home I spotted a wolf track in a soft spot on the trail. And I wondered, it's like, where's that wolf going? That cow was in the garden, and by her tracks I could see that she had 2 calves which were too small to leap the fence. So evidently the wolf was after those calves. Well, she bellowed for the next 36 hours just out of sight of the garden. And my next door neighbor said she was probably bellowing because she had a bellyache from eating all the cabbages. But I swore that it must be the moose or the wolf after her calves. And she stood in defense for 36 hours, parrying with the wolf, and every time he lunged in at the calves, she would bellow. Well, finally, after 36 hours, some other neighbors arrived, and their dog ran down and scared the wolf off, and the moose ran through the other neighbor's yard, stomping with 2 calves behind her. No one was harmed. The garden was alleviated of much more damage because the wolves had run off the moose. This gave me an opportunity to spend time erecting a taller defensive moose fence, which I made of willow poles, which is kind of ironic given that moose survive eating willows, and I was now going to use willow to keep the moose from surviving by eating my garden. So I spent a month collecting 12-foot willow poles to erect a hurdle that was 8 feet high and 8 feet wide with 4 rails, so the moose would have to jump both 8 feet high and 8 feet wide to clear the fence. And it seemed to work, but I couldn't tell because the wolves kept the moose from coming back for most of the summer. We had a nice warm spring spell, and the transplants took off nicely. I had pictures to prove it just before the day I picked the lettuce for town. There was not much I could do except work on the fence for the whole month of June. And after getting the fence done, all the plants responded to their pruning by sending up multiple stems, and everything flourished the rest of the summer. So the garden proliferated, except for the voles. And in the home garden, the voles started eating the peas, and they mowed the peas down by climbing the pea vines and nipping the tops out. And once they removed all the tops, then they aimed lower and they mowed them all down at about 3 inches, except for 4 pea plants, which made for a poor pea harvest. But all the other plants did well. The broccolis grew, the cabbages at the home garden, which I defended first, proliferated, and I harvested about 10 or 12 10-pound cabbages to make sauerkraut. As luck would have it, the wolves coursed through the neighborhood through the summer and kept those moose at bay. Then there was the garden lynx. Well, I first noticed the lynx back in the winter time when his tracks would follow my trails around the neighborhood, and he was scent marking every little twig that stuck out on the side of the trail, marking his territory to overlap mine. And as the summer proceeded, that lynx would make himself apparent occasionally, and I'd see him and I'd take videos, and get pictures of him. He ate hares from under the bird feeder. He chased squirrels down below the house, under the hill. He'd watch me walk down the trail. One day, I stopped at the neighbors and watered the flowering hanging baskets on his deck, and turned around, and the lynx was sitting there watching me water the flowers. And I stepped off the deck to take pictures of him, and he went under the house and proceeded to crawl under the space under the house and come out the other side. Then he went under a travel trailer and proceeded to catch a hare, which I think he had probably been watching the whole time, and I scared when I stepped on the deck to water the plants. He caught the hare, he took it into the bushes to eat. I went to the garden to water the garden, and while I was in the garden, he came out and sat and watched me water the garden. And this was the first of many times that he would come out of the bushes to watch me water the garden. In the end, he got used to seeing me hike up and down the trails and ride my bike from one garden to the other, carrying totes of vegetables either out to haul to town or back home to process through the cannon. And we became familiars. He was not afraid to walk within 10 feet of me. One day in late July, I was meandering through the woods looking for mushrooms and turned around, and he was following closely behind, watching as occasionally I would scare up a hare, and he would proceed to hunt the hare. It even got to the point where one day he left a half of one of his catches sitting alongside of my bike on the trail where I parked it when I walk home. And I set a game cam up, and he came back and he ate on this catch twice, but never removed it from right beside my bike. He was much like a house cat leaving a gift at your front door or beside your bed where you roll out in the morning and step on a half-eaten mouse. So it was a good garden year. I was able to secure a lot of food. I'm going to eat well, and if you are here in January and you've done a 10-day quarantine, you should ring me up. We can get together for dinner. I'll share some homegrown food and tell you the finer details of this story.
What do you want me to start with? With thing in a minute. Thank you, Mark. Gosh, that makes me want to walk through the mushrooms down to eat some of your real food with your real view and your real baskets hanging from the ceiling. Thank you, Mark Vale. And thank you for all you do to help the Wrangell Mountain Center's Real Food movement stay together. Sophie Litty, by the way, are you out there, Sophie? She put a lot of time into planting your seeds, but I'm sure we got seedlings from you. It's great to see you, Mark. Bless your heart. That was my shout out to Sophie, logged in as Charlotte. Thank you for your work on the garden this year. Woo-hoo. So, we are at 9:50, and we have promised the world that this is going to be a 2-hour show, and I'm doing a dang good time despite the fact that I am in a time warp like the rest of the world. Anybody else feel like time has become incredibly relative and the weeks just go by? But we're in a 2-hour window, which is awesome. We are going to invite you now to vote. We're still going to have Michelle, don't worry, but are we ready to drop the survey? Ms. Molly, you want to chime in here for a second? Little reminder, you had to pay extra to vote, right? Which sounds a little bit like, you know, a Trump scheme to rig the election, but it's really about just saving the nonprofits. So we're going to go on the honor system here. Did they drop it? Okay, so if you go to the chat box right now, you will find the Survey Monkey, which truly, Molly assures me, and I tested it, you do not have to be, you could be as smart as a monkey and do this survey. You get a chance to vote on your favorite story, and we're going to give a third, second, and a first prize of $500. So you're going to want to do that. You do it at the survey, and we'll be tallying the scores as that next little bit happens. So the next little bit is going to start. Are you out there, Michelle? Michelle, my belle, these are things. Well, we're going to go ahead and start. That story you heard from Shauna P., a river song story, ended up with a really incredible song. We're going to show you just a clip of the way music happens in the WMC. Are we ready? We're going to share. Here we go. Can you guys see this? All right. Make it full screen. And then we're going to go live to Southern Oregon. Full screen. Oh.
Catch the sun down the street. Eagle and raven fly on by. Gives you chills and you don't know why. Down the street. Who knows what could change your life? Near death or a dragonfly down the street. Through the lifeline, I'm looking straight in the eyes.
Oh man, I love that song. Michelle, are you there? You're gonna finish this song for us live from Oregon with a scratchy throat.
Oh yeah, I'm here.
There she is. We can see you, we can't hear you yet, baby.
Everybody, thanks for showing up. Oh my God. This
Unmute yourself, sister.
I'm unmuted.
She's muted. Molly, unmute Michelle.
Muted.
Hang on, you look gorgeous, but we can't hear you yet, right? Oh no, can we hear her?
I can hear.
Okay, I can't hear you because they shut down my sound. All right,
Acid or something there.
you got it, girl. So you are in near Ashland, is that right?
Yeah, north of Ashland.
Okay. The other day, the highest smoke we got in Spokane was 500, which is the top of the scale. And you said you were at 1,200 particulate matter.
We're at 1,200.
Go see Michelle's Facebook page and see how she has been protecting her people down there in the mountains of Southern Oregon. I was thinking about our Nazina Canyon adventure was the trial by water, and now you're in trial by fire. So will you throw us a beautiful lifeline, my sister?
I will. Just so folks know, I was on the River Song, part of the River Song family, and I was in one of those boats that Shauna talked about that kind of went around that blind curve. And one of the boats that pulled out at the confluence, and we camped that night, and we all hung out around the fire and processed through writing this song. And it goes like this. Out where the river runs, so fast you can catch the sun down the street. Eagle and raven fly on by, gives you chills but you don't know why. Down the street. Who knows what could change a life? Near death or a dragonfly. Down the street. And you threw me a lifeline, and I looked you straight in the eye. And there was no time, just me and you and the light down the street. Boat with an iron will, the canyon is stronger still. Down the street. You were there at the crux, I was disappearing into the rush. Down the street. I had to let go of what I know, trust the unknown. Down the street. And you flew me a lifeline, and I looked you straight in the eye. There was no time, just me and you and the light down the street. Down the street. How many souls of light does it take to make one wild break down the street? It's for the River Song family.
Hey, Michelle.
Hi,
I'm
everybody.
so happy.
It's fun. This is so fun.
Are
First
you
of all,
having fun?
can I say something? Do we have time for me to
You can riff, girl. You go.
Okay, so here's the deal. It's been one hell of a week. And I just want to say that I am so grateful for this community and for every one of you stepping up and showing up, because the Wrangell Mountain Center is part of the heartbeat of McCarthy. And it's really important that we all keep going forward. And I'm so grateful for every one of you buying tickets, and for everyone who showed up and put this on, and everyone who's just here, because it matters, and it really matters a lot now. So thank you all, and it's so awesome to see everybody. I love you all so much, and I've missed you this summer. I'm working hard not to cry, seeing you, but they're happy tears. So,
Oh, bless you. Bless you, Michelle.
bless you all.
So good to hear your voice, man. We didn't have a living room concert this year. That's one of my favorite nights at the WMC. But we had this. We had a virtual living room. This brings new meaning to the living room concert, right?
Got two next year.
Yeah, at least. And Michelle is sticking around for what we're calling the after party. And if somebody is like some sort of expert on Zoom, even more than we know, and can figure out how we can like have, you know, Jewel on his guitar and Robin on her stand-up and
We're going to get a dance party going.
oh, dance party. Dance party. Will you be the DJ?
No,
That
I'm
would
not.
be-
I'm going to play bluegrass songs, and we're going to dance in the Zoom room.
Okay, cool. That sounds like it would work better because somehow we can't get these mics to talk. Let's us try to talk at the very same time and see what happens, Michelle. Keep talking. See if you can talk at the same time as me. Come on, go ahead and talk.
Can you hear me, Nancy?
I can hear you, Lynn.
Talk. Everybody unmute. Unmute.
Everybody unmute and let's see what we can do. Can we
Unmuted.
sing a song together?
I'm gonna turn on my video.
Sounds like the bar.
And then you have to go into gallery view. So you can, yeah, there we go. Oh, Maria, I can see you. Oh my God, Enric's got his, Pete Bell's got a guitar. Okay, but we're not to the after party yet. That's the way it's gonna be.
We gotta have a winner.
We gotta have a winner. We gotta have a winner. Not me. Did you mute me? No. Okay. So what is the story? I have my little, have you guys seen my little helper here again? This is the wonderful Laura, who's gonna come to the Wrangles. She's here with me in Astoria, my Zoom friend. Bless your heart for your help, Laura, Molly, Erdman, Rita, Sophie, the whole Ring Mountain Center board, Maria, who's no longer on the board, but has done so much. Everybody who donated, Agnew Beck, Uncle Herb, and that other guy on consulting services. Thank you, everybody. John, are we ready for an announcement? Usually Neil shows up. Are you still there, Neil? Usually Neil shows up with all of his $100 bills waving around, and it's really exciting. But what are we going to do about this, John?
Well, it's super close. And actually, Molly has the results. So she's the one who's tallying the results. And they're just like within a few votes.
Oh my God, this is like November 2nd coming. Are we sure? Can we trust the voting?
Well, we'll have to take it to Molly. I guess we'll leave it open for just like another few more, seconds to make sure.
A few more seconds. Should we take that second? This is one of, I've got all these props. I haven't used all my props. Can you guys see this prop? Because we sure as hell are going to vote this November, right? Because the planet needs it. And we're going to be engaged in voter activism for the next 5 weeks, like our life depended on it, like it was Chris Brothers throwing a throw bag, right? Vote. And not just in the tall tales. Jamie Hart is online. Jeremy turned on his video. People are just waking up for the after party. Did it like just get dark in Alaska or what? Annabelle. Yeah, go ahead and turn on your videos, guys. There's Sophie Gilbert. Sweet Creek. What is happening in Sweet Creek anyway? It looks like a bunch of kids. You guys have a video. There's Cynthia Shiner against Schnitzler. You look like you're in a cave. Cave Junction. Nate Anderson is back. Where are you these days, Nate? Anchorage. Grandma, look at there's Bronco Bob. Can we see that cute dog of yours, Grandma? Did you guys all miss Johnny? You know we didn't miss me, but I bet you guys missed that cute pug of Sonny and Bob's. Where's Johnny? There's Sonny. All right. Who else have we got? There's Owen, Cheryl at Newsy, Brian Enright. I feel like Brian might be the guy who could tell us how we can sing along on Zoom. You seem really smart. John's iPad. Do we know how to do that, Brian? Because I could really enjoy.
Work. I've tried. It just doesn't work.
Well, could we shut everybody up and make you sing a song to us? Because I missed your voice this summer.
Oh, thank you.
I did. Who else? There's Dad. My mom and Dad are in Spokane, Washington. Longtime supporters of the Ring Mountain Center. Look at that big, beautiful smile. Bronco Bob, we call him. Who else is in here? Are we ready yet? They're getting sick of listening to me. They want to know who our winner is.
Yes, we do have a winner. We do have a winner. It's decisive now.
Are you going to announce it? I think you should announce it.
I can tell you, Nancy, that Monty has taken the third place ranking on the voting.
John Christopher Montpare. Right on.
Number three, an excellent story. Number two, Elizabeth Schaefer.
Woohoo!
Very close. Very close. Elizabeth Schaefer was very close to the top spot. Well-earned story. And number one, do we have a drum roll? Is there a da-da-da-da-da-da? Shauna Pataki takes the crown.
Shauna Pataki, woohoo! That's awesome. She is a professional with the whole interpretive, but thank you so much for everybody who voted. I'm getting hot now. I'm gonna do a little striptease. Wow, so what do we do? How do we get her? How do we get her the money?
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Yay!
Money to the well.
You're gonna give the money to the well. That's awesome. Do you want to say anything else? Can we hear the jokes about how the dog gets to sleep in the bed? Yeah, you think that's funny, Mark?
There are a couple of decisive things that happened after that experience. Dogs get to sleep in the bed, hands down, no problem. I made a carrot cake that I owed for over a year for losing a bet on the World Series, and but I got my math all wrong, and I bought like 9 pounds of carrots and a multi-pound thing of cream cheese. It's a long story, but
she had a head injury. It was a mild head injury, but it was still a head injury.
I just wanted one cake. I could have baked a lot of cake.
Well, bless you, Shauna, for being part of our River Song Ring Mountain family. And really, everybody in this Zoom room tonight is part of our caring community. Thank you for stopping everything for a little bit to listen to a story and find the hope in your heart, to be inspired by the hope in your friends' hearts. And listening is so important, so is voting. Michelle is going to kick off the after party with one more song, and then we're gonna, I don't know, how should the after party work? Throw ideas in the chat room. I think you guys have heard enough from me, so I will certainly be here.
I would love to hear other people, like if Brian wants to play a song and Robin should play a song. I think we should do like an in and around, like I'll play a song and then someone else play a song. And let's just jam, and then anybody not playing music should get out of the chair and get their groove on. And like, you know, you had some funky moves. Y'all, all you musicians, get your shit together and get ready. Are we good to go for the after party?
Brian, you got a guitar or something?
Yeah, I guess I'll go and get it.
Okay, Jules, you got something?
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so Michelle's gonna kick us off, and then it's gonna be roundtable, just like we used to. And everybody else, again, thank you so much for supporting the WMC. The silent auction will not close until tomorrow night, and there's still some excellent values. And you know, the other thing you could do would be like chat somebody in the chat box and say, would you like to go to my private Zoom room so we can talk about this or that? I mean, that would be sort of antisocial in a way, but you could have better conversations. It's meant a whole lot to me. Some of my favorite people in the world are in this Zoom room tonight, and we are not socially isolated. We have each other, we have our mountain family, And we're gonna get through this. Hang in there, world, like you're climbing one of Monty's rocks. Buzz and B, WMC, signing off.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thanks, Nancy.
I'll come back for the party, but I'm gonna shut up for a second.
We need you to get the dance party started, Nancy. All right.
Oh, you need me to get the dance party started here? I do have a friend who could dance with me right here.
All right, you two, get your groove. That's what I'm talking about right there.
Get your groove on, girl. I see you.
Get out of your chairs, or at least get your groove on in the chair. Courage, pull me through. Don't let me see the last of you. Next, I lay my eyes on him. I'll be a lover, not a friend. It was a fun song. I won't find another like you, crazy, beautiful mess. I've gotta run, cover, 'cause life is raining down on me right now. Forget me not and I'll come back around. Night never came, but I woke up dreaming his name. He sings the mountains to sleep, makes me wanna stop my wandering. It was a fun song. I won't find another like you, crazy, beautiful mess. I've gotta run, cover, 'cause life is raining down on me right now. Forget me not and I'll come back around. It was a fun song. I won't find another like you, crazy, beautiful mess. I've gotta run, cover, 'cause life is raining down on me right now. Forget me not and I'll come back. Forget me not and I'll come back. Forget me not and I'll come back around. All right, I see y'all dancing. I like the hand clap. Sweet. All right.
Sign up. Ooh, she's
there? Robin, you got a banjo? Brian?
How about we hear from the Fent house? Because I feel like that house had a lot of fans.
Yeah. Silk stocking.
First. Somebody else first.
We're tuning up. Brian, you ready?
Wait a second. Monty,